Social expectation drowns us all inside. What you have should be what I want, 'cause what I have just ain't alright. The clothes I wear, the way I comb my hair, how I live, oh, I don't care.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi wa kafa. Alhamdulillahi wa kafa. Wa salamun ala ibadihi alladhina astafa. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad النبي الأمي وعلى آله وسلم تسليما. مولاي صل وسلم دائما أبدا على حبيبك خير الخلق كلهم. اللهم صل على سيدنا وشفيعنا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. اللهم أغننا بالعلم وزينا بالحلم وأكرمنا بالتقوى وجملنا بالعافية. ربنا زدنا علما. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا وأنت تجعل الحزن سهلا إذا شئت. أما بعد. This is the 9th chapter. This lesson today is about Zuhd, becoming a Zahid, asceticism, and its significance. Zuhd and its significance. Sheikh Abdul Fadl al-Iskandari, rahimahullah, says, whatever act and amal stems from the heart of a tariki dunya, of one who has renounced this world, as Zahid, is not little. Whatever act stems from the heart of a tariki dunya is not little. And whatever act the ghafil, the negligent one, attaches to the world, it is not much. The commentary of this, as long as hubbi dunya, Allah, as long as love for the world and hubbi jah, love for status, name and fame dominate, then ikhlas, sincerity will not develop in amal salihah, righteous deeds. Very, very important. For deeds to be accepted, sincerity is a shart and condition. فَمَنْ كَانَ يَرْجُو لِقَاءَ رَبِّهِ فَلْيَعْمَلْ عَمَلًا صَالِحًا وَلَا يُشْرِكْ بِعِبَادَةِ رَبِّهِ أَحَدًا. So ikhlas, but the thing, what prevents ikhlas, as long as hubbi dunya, love for the world, some love for the world, and hubbi jah, love for fame, as long as these two things dominate, hubbi dunya, hubbi jah, ikhlas will not develop in amal salihah. Worldly motives and lustful desires will appear in every place and in every deed of such a person. Worldly motives, lustful desires will appear. Acceptance of deeds in the divine court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala occurs only when these deeds are devoid of these calamities. Even the salah of a man dominated by worldly love, even his salat is contaminated with some worldly motive. On the contrary, a banda, an abd, a servant, on whom Allah's fadl, Allah's bounty settles, and whose nafs is purified from hubbi dunya, love of the world, then all his actions, whether pertaining to the deen or the world, are based on ikhlas. His aim is Allah. That is his aim, Allah. Because the dunya has been expelled from his heart. So his aim is Allah. Hence, whatever deed is rendered by a tariq dunya, one who has left this world, a zahid, whatever deed he does is not insignificant. Even if in quantity it appears slight, it is not insignificant. Although his deed may be quantitatively little, it is imbued with ruh. It has ruh in that deed, soul, and is accepted by Allah Ta'ala. Hence it is very significant. On the other hand, the actions of a man whose heart is greedily set on the world and who is forgetful of Allah Ta'ala are insignificant. Even if in appearance, they are considerable and great, because the aim of these deeds are not proper. The heart is contaminated with falsity. Hence his deeds are not free of the calamities of show and base motives of the nafs. His deeds are not free because the heart is contaminated with falsity. Hence his deeds are not free of the calamities of show, base motives of the nafs and shaitan, even if he considers himself to be free of such ailments. It is therefore of utmost importance to cleanse the heart of all things besides Allah. Cleanse the heart of Ghairullah. Sometimes some people say this path is a bit too difficult, it's too hard. But in this path lies the success. Many are called, few are chosen. But this is the path that really lies to success, because the deeper and more Allah bestows His favor upon you, the more you realize how much we know and how much we really do not know. The heart should be purified and adorned with lofty attributes, so that the righteous deeds rendered are full of life and soul. Thus even if the deed is ostensibly small, in reality it will be great insha'Allah ta'ala. It is essential to understand that righteous deeds should not be abandoned. A person says, well, wow, I have so many bad qualities. Righteous deeds should not be abandoned on account of existence of these spiritual calamities in one. After all, rendering the deeds is better than abandoning them. Moreover, righteous deeds, if practiced constantly, will ultimately produce ikhlas. It will ultimately produce ikhlas, inshallah, even if initially ikhlas was lacking. One should possess, Sheikh Abul Fadl alayhi rahmah says, one should possess less worldly objects of pleasure, then things which bring grief will decrease. Commentary. In most cases, the cause of man's grief and worry is the loss of worldly objects. Example, loss of wealth and property. I remembered when certain banks went bankrupt in America not too long ago, just about a year or two ago, this big bankruptcy, and people lost millions. Some people committed suicide. You know that? Huh? 3 of them, they committed suicide. That is what we know about. The possession of such objects, on the other hand, produces pleasure pleasure and comfort. If anyone wished to decrease grief and worry, he should decrease his worldly possessions. He will then not possess things which will cause him grief. The greater man's worldly possessions, the greater will be his grief and sorrow. The heart will not find peace. The heart will not find peace. Thus, al-aqil, the intelligent man, will content himself. That doesn't mean you have to live like a vagrant, live like a beggar. It doesn't mean that. The intelligent man will content himself with necessary requirements and eliminate superfluous possessions. In this way, he acquires the peace and comfort of both the worlds. Sheikh Abul Fadl alayhi rahmah says, if you desire to be saved from dismissal, then do not acquire the transitory kingdom of this world. Commentary. The statement mentioned by the Sheikh, it is mentioned by the Sheikh as an example of his former statement. The kingdom of the world, mulkud dunya, has no true existence. No true existence. It is transitory and perishable, fleeting. Do not acquire it, because you will be confronted with the grief of being dismissed from it. Even if you are not dismissed in worldly terms, maut, death, will ultimately tear you away from this kingdom. So you might still have it, but death will dismiss you from it, from this kingdom. You will then suffer the grief of dismissal. Hence, abstain from the acquisition of this perishable kingdom. If the establishment of the kingdom of the world inclines you towards it, then its cessation, its end with dismissal or death will disincline you from it. If its zahir draws you to it, if the zahir of the kingdom of this world, the external nature, if it draws you towards it, then its batin, its internal dimension, the internal dimension of the kingdom of this world, when you get to realize what it is, it prevents you from it, then you don't want it. Commentary of this. Initially, pomp and pleasure of worldly kingdom appear magnificent and pleasing. People strive to become kings and emperors and rulers and acquire the kingdom of this world. Those who possess such kingdom appear honorable and noble in the estimate of others. That's why after election and thing, when ministers lose and we are not prime minister anymore, a big grief, a big grief. Those who possess such kingdom appear honorable and noble in the estimate of others. Even their own nafs basks in delight. This initial pomp draws people to acquisition of worldly kingdom. However, the ultimate result is that either the ruler, the malik, either the ruler is dismissed. During his lifetime, he is dismissed. New government, new king, new rule. Or if he is not dismissed during his lifetime from the world, and the worldly kingdom is still there, he is separated from it by death. In most cases, governments do not observe the laws of the Sharia. And we can see from around the world that those, and especially what's happening now, the governments and the rulers, plenty of wealth and pomp and pleasure, and the masses suffer. The masses suffer, and they have lots of wealth, plenty of wealth. In most cases, governments do not observe the laws of the Sharia. Injustice, dhulm, oppression appear to be their necessary attributes. And we can very well understand that with the happenings that are happening now. When dismissed, the ex-ruler will be overwhelmed with grief. When separated from his kingdom by death, sorrow will be his lot. And on account of his oppression, his dhulm, and the usurpation of the rights of people, he will be weighed down by mountains of regret. Thus, sorrow and regret will be his end. This regrettable end, if he understands this, what is the bottom and the hidden nature of this worldly kingdom, this regrettable end will disenchant him from his worldly kingdom. But then it will be too late. It's better to realize that before it is too late. While the zahir, the external of worldly kingdom, is alluring with its ranks, wealth, and comforts which lure man to it, its batin, hidden nature, diverts man from the remembrance of Allah Ta'ala. That's the hakikat of the kingdom of this world. It diverts man from the dhikr of Allah Ta'ala. It is therefore absolutely disastrous for one's happiness and success in the akhirah. This ultimate fate of the worldly kingdom should thus prevent you from hankering after it. And that is what is meant by if the zahir attracts you towards it, the batin prevents you from it. The intelligent man, one who is aqil, intelligent, he is far-sighted, very far-sighted, an intelligent man. He is not deceived by the external facade, an initial stage of anything. He is not deceived. He sees beyond that. His sight is set on reality, hakikat, and the ultimate result, his eyes are set on that. Allah Ta'ala, Sheikh Abdul Fadl alayhi rahmah says, Allah Ta'ala has fixed the world as the abode of lesson. This world is a place for lessons, ibrat. And He has fixed this world as the mine of pollutions, in order to turn you away from it. That's so deep. Let's comment on it. Allah Ta'ala has made the world a place in which man should derive lesson and experience. That's why it said, Zindagi ek imtihan hai. Life is about a test, it's an imtihan. Allah has made the world a place in which man should derive lesson and experience, ibrat. He has also made it an abode of pollution, an abode of pollutions and worries. From the awful and awesome episodes enacted night and day, these episodes on earth, the intelligent man takes lesson and gains experience. From the terrible calamities and upheavals happening in the world, man gains admonition. No one is able to attain fulfillment of his wishes and goals. An ill man, the man is sick. An ill man desires health, but sickness refuses to depart from him. A man wishes for wealth, but is overcome by poverty, and his poverty is not going. In short, the world is the abode of worry and pollutions. In the hardships, trials, tribulations, and experiences of man, there is a considerable mercy of Allah Ta'ala in this. There's great benefit and khair in the hardships, trials, tribulations, and experiences of man. There is khair, considerable mercy, rahmah of Allah Ta'ala. As a result of these trials, man becomes disenchanted from the world by means of man's disinclination does Allah Ta'ala separate him? He separates him in this way from this carrion that is from the world. Allah Ta'ala was aware. Allah is Alim, He is Hakim. Allah was aware that nasiha, good counsel, will not be sufficient for you. Yes, the Prophet ﷺ said, Ad-Dinu an-Nasiha. Deen is about what? Nasiha, advice. But Allah Ta'ala was aware that nasiha, good counsel, will not be sufficient for you. You need something more than that. He knows man best. He therefore causes you to taste of the bitterness of worldly hardships, thereby simplifying, making easy for you your separation from the world. So there's khair in it. And He simplifies it now for you to separate from the world. Commentary of this. Nasiha, Quran and Hadith. Yes, these are adequate for a man. Devoid of the love of the world, it will be adequate for him, sufficient. And whose intelligence is correct, then these are enough. These are enough. However, Allah Ta'ala was aware that the love of worldly pleasures and pollution is firmly entrenched in the hearts of numerous people, deep down inside. Allah knows this. He was aware of that. Their intelligence is deficient. Hence, nasiha, advice, and bayan, and khutbah alone is not sufficient for them. He gives them a taste of worldly hardships and trials so that they become disillusioned with this carrion, with this world. Abandoning the world, worldly love for the world, therefore becomes a matter of ease. It becomes a matter of ease. So there's khair in it. There's rahmah in it. There also are such people who even fail to gain any lesson from difficulties. There are people like that also. They get no lesson from difficulties and hardships. Nevertheless, numerous Muslims do turn towards Allah Ta'ala in consequence of the calamities which befall them. They do turn, numerous. Thus, in relation to their former state of degeneration, they progress. Now there's progress. They progress in the direction leading to Allah Ta'ala. Khutbahs, nasihat, hadith, Quran, it was not sufficient because the man's intelligence was still lacking. Love of the world was too deeply entrenched. So then Allah brings some kind of sickness and hardship. And you see, he starts turning to the masjid. He starts, the things which used to distract him, he loses love, and he now turns to Allah. Is there mercy for him? Otherwise, if it continued so and Allah snatched him just like that and death came and was the end of it, was an adhab. Ta'i haqiqi, from the verb tawaya to ta'i, which means to drift, which means the folding up of distance. Folding up of the distance. Like I go in from here to point, and you find like if the distance is shortened, you go in from here to point, and in half an hour time, I reach point. Half an hour. What am I doing? Like the distance gets shorter or something? That's called a miracle. That's called ta'i. Folding up of physical distance. But there is one ta'i which is called the real ta'i, the real folding up of distance, which is called ta'i haqiqi. Means that with your spiritual vision, you wrap up the earthly sojourn. You wrap up the earthly journey. Wrap up the earthly journey with your spiritual vision to such a degree that you discern Qiyamah. You can see Qiyamah to be closer to you than your own self. That's the real toy. Commentary. Toy Hakiki is a type of karamat, a type of miracle which Allah Ta'ala awards to His friends, His awliya. There are some awliya, some friends of Allah, some saints who traverse huge distances in a minute miraculously. It has happened. History bears witness to it. So many narrations. Some awliya of Allah traverse huge distances in a minute, miraculously. The Shaykh Rahmatullah Alayhi conveys in this statement that traversing huge distances miraculously is not the aim. That's not your aim, nor something to hanker after. That's not your aim, nor something to hanker after. Traversing distances miraculously is not necessarily the product of wilayati maqbula, sainthood accepted by Allah. That is, if someone possesses the ability of traveling huge distances in minutes, it does not follow that he is necessarily an accepted wali by Allah Ta'ala. There are some non-Muslims, there are some yogis, people who study yoga, who have done spiritual exercises, who can perform supernatural acts. They can do it. It is quite possible that a man can acquire such powers by exercises known as riyadat, even while he is not obedient to the Sharia. A seemingly miraculous deed displayed by an irreligious person is called in Islam istidraj. What the prophets do, those miracles are called mu'jizat. Those miracles that Allah works on the hands and through His awliya are known as karamat. And those miracles that take place on the hands of irreligious people are known as istidraj. Istidraj. And istidraj really is a demonstration which is facilitated by various satanic influences. If a miraculous act is demonstrated by a true and accepted saint and wali of Allah, even then it is not an aim to be pursued, because that's not your aim. If it comes, alhamdulillah, but that's not your aim, because if that is your aim, again you're going to lack in what? Ikhlas. So the true hakiki toy hakiki, the true toy or traversing of distance is not really that. What it is then? It is that you wrap up the journey of the world, wrap up the distance of the world from in front of your heart. Wrap it up from in front of your heart. That is, not only expel the love of the world from your heart, hubbi dunya, not only expel it, do not permit it to even pass near to your heart. Eliminate the love of the world. Eliminate the love of the world. In other words, wrap up this distance, this earthly journey. Take off the love of the world from your heart. Eliminate it so that Qiyamah appears to be nearer to you than yourself. And Qiyamah is so close. How can Qiyamah be so close? It's only when you wrap up that journey of the world. Qiyamah will appear to the salik closer than his own existence. And even his own existence will be closer than that. Because his own existence being part of Ghairullah, everything else besides Allah, will be also traversed by his heart. The heart gains the ability to traverse the distance of the world. So we are not talking about physical distance here. So Ta'i Hakiki is not about physical distance. The heart gains the ability to traverse the distance of the world when Allah Ta'ala inspires the banda's heart, the servant's heart, with the nur of yaqeen. When this nur of yaqeen is there, with the light, with the nur radiated by the nur of yaqeen, then the reality of the verse, you will now understand the verse. Before we used to read it, but we will now understand the verse. Qul Ja'al haqq wa zahaqal batil. Say haqq has now come and the batil has gone. At that time, the world will be completely annihilated from the heart. So the journey has been made so easy. But then again, وَذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ. For that to happen, and for that nur of yaqeen to be in the heart, Allah subhanahu, of course man has to make effort. But at the end of it all, ذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ, that is the bounty and the favor of Allah. يُؤْتِيهِ مَن يَشَاءُ, He grants it to whomsoever He wants. وَمَا ذَلِكَ عَلَى اللَّهِ بِعَزِيزٍ, and that is not difficult on Allah. Razaqana Allahu Ta'ala. Ameen. May Allah bestow it to us. Allahumma Ameen. Shaykh Abul Fadl alayhi rahmah says in Hikam, if the nur of yaqeen had to shine in you, then the akhirat will be nearer to you than that nearness which a journey towards the akhirat brings about. And then you would see with open eyes the blot of the perishable nature of the beauties of the world. Commentary. Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam have informed you that this world is transitory, temporary, and an abode of falsehood and deception, and that the akhirat is everlasting. وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى, and the akhirat is the abode of truth. If you had firm belief, yaqeen, in these truths, and the light of this yaqeen then permeates your heart, enabling you to see that the promises of Allah and His Rasul are brighter than the sun. The promises of Allah and His Rasul are brighter than the sun, then the akhirat would have been in the very presence of your heart. So is that the whole journey just fallen up, and that's the real troublesome of distance. The akhirat would have been in the very presence of your heart. وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. The proximity of the akhirah would have been closer to your heart than that proximity resulting from the journey taken towards the akhirah. A journey towards a place is undertaken when that place is situated at a distance. However, when that place is closer to you than your own nafs, there is no need to prepare for a journey. And you would realize that the material things of the world, with their external excellences and beauty, are stamped with the blot of destruction. They all will perish. كُلُّ مَنْ عَلَيْهَا فَانٍ. Allah. The discernment of these realities, these haqa'iq, the discernment of these haqa'iq and realities is the result of the nur of yaqeen, which is inspired into the heart by Allah. ذَلِكَ فَضْلُ اللَّهِ يُؤْتِيهِ مَن يَشَاءُ. When it is inspired into the heart, it makes the realities of things very conspicuous. Every Muslim knows that the world is perishable. Ask any Muslim, he will tell you that. Every Muslim knows the akhirat is everlasting. Every Muslim believes in the promises of Allah and His Rasul. But when the light of yaqeen dawns in the heart, then these objects of our iman become as visible as the things seen by the physical eyes. The effect of this discernment is that man will cast the world behind his back. That's the natija, that's the effect. And all his efforts will be for the akhirah. وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى. The inordinate desires of his nafs will dissipate. He will treasure time. He will value time. Razaqana Allahu Ta'ala, Ameen. May Allah bestow it to us, Ameen. The Shaykh says, the external beauty and glitter of worldly things are deception. Their hidden realities are full of lesson and admonition. O nafs, ya ayyatuhan nafs. You look at the external beauty while your heart should focus on the inner hidden realities. Commentary. The nafs becomes ensnared by the external beauty and glitter of worldly things, and it pursues these and becomes entrapped. In this pursuit, he forgets the akhirah. But the inner realities of these things are full of lesson and warning. This is applicable to everything on earth. While every earthly object is initially beautiful and pleasurable, kullu jadidin ladhidh, its ultimate end is distasteful and disgusting. As an example, consider the beginning and the end of food. There's a big difference in the beginning and the what? End of food. The worldly allurements cause man to even turn his back on the deen. If Allah's tawfiq is at hand and He bestows sound intelligence, the nafs is prevented from the superficial beauty and glitter of the world. The nothingness and ultimate extinction are kept in sight. He is far-sighted. And man then does not plunge into these deceptions like the blind and the deaf. He contents himself with needs. He leaves everything else and goes in search of the everlasting treasure. He leaves everything else and he goes in search of the everlasting treasure. وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ وَأَبْقَى قُلْ مَتَاعُ الدُّنْيَا قَلِيلٌ. Say the mata, the goods of this world, is qaleel. وَالْآخِرَةُ خَيْرٌ لِمَنِ اتَّقَى. And the akhirat is better for those who have taqwa. The pleasures of this life, small, qaleel. The Shaykh says, if you desire everlasting honor, what time is sunset? 6:03. If you desire everlasting honor, do not choose then an honor which will perish. If you desire everlasting honor, do not choose then an honor which will perish. And honor belongs to whom? Lillahi al-izzatu. Lillahi al-izzatu wa li rasulihi wa lil mu'mineen. Commentary. Worldly honor is wealth and fame. Worldly honor is what? Wealth, fame, and it all comes back again to what? Hubbud dunya, hubbid jah. Both these, wealth and fame, both these are snatched away from man here in this earthly life. Both are snatched away, wealth and fame. Or if it is not snatched away from him, he is ultimately he is separated from them by death. Thus, this honor will end. If you acquire this honor while remaining uncaring and forgetful of your master, then your honor will not endure, because the basis of such honor is perishable. But of course, if the honor was acquired by Allah, Allah gave it to him because of his taqwa and obedience, that honor will endure. True and everlasting honor, izzah, is that the heart establishes no relationship with worldly objects. When relationship with worldly objects are too deep, it brings dishonor, it brings grief, it brings sorrow, because there will ultimately be what? A detachment from it. True and everlasting honor is that the heart, the qalb, establishes no relationship with worldly objects. The heart is enriched by establishing a bond, a nisbah, with the eternal being. If even the kingdom of the world is presented, the heart imbued with the divine bond, nisbah, will not be attracted to the world. Compared to the kingdom of Ahkamul Hakimeen, the best of all judges, the kingdom of the world is not equal to the wing of a mosquito, and we have been told that. Whoever therefore desires the true and everlasting honor, then let him abandon the perishable honor of the world, which is about wealth and fame. This true honor will be with man even in this life, while it is full and perfect manifestation will be after death. This true honor, izzah, will be with man even in this life, while it is full, and the perfect manifestation will be after death. In other words, it will be with him as long as he remains, and after death, he will have perfect manifestation and duhur of this honor after death. So this lesson today, which we have to soak in and really put into practice, is about zuhd, asceticism, and its significance. The Prophet ﷺ said on zuhd, he said, izhad fid dunya, that become a zahid in this world. Become a zahid in this world. Renounce this world. Now, renouncing this world doesn't mean that you become a hermit or a monk or go live in the mountains or become a vagrant or a beggar. You could be a millionaire and still be a what? Zahid. Renouncing this world means the love and the craving for this world doesn't enter the heart. Allah may bless you. You may have the best car. You may have wealth. You may have riches, and you can still be a zahid. It doesn't mean you have to be poor to be a zahid, because you have plenty poor people who crave for wealth. So a man may be a millionaire, a billionaire, and he is still a zahid because he has renounced the world. Means what? He has renounced the love and the craving and the hankering for the world, hubbi dunya. But Allah's given him certain means, he enjoys it. Two things we have also learned is that once hubbi dunya, love for the world, and love for name and fame, and that's a very dangerous one too, love for name and fame. And it is so subtle, you don't even see it, but you like to be in, people to know you and for show and recognize, and you're famous and your name. My God, once that love is there, there will be no ikhlas. It will bar the ikhlas from coming. Many of the great mashayikh of this world and the great awliyaullah are unknown except to a few. Those who are close to them know them. The next lesson, inshallah, which we will do next week, that next lesson, subhanallah, it will really blow your mind. And the topic of it is al-faqru Eidul Mu'mineen, Eidul Murideen, that faqr, poverty, is the Eid of the friends of Allah, of the Murids. What does that mean? That is really a deep topic. Inshallah, next week. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruk wa natubu ilaik. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun, wa salamun alal mursaleen, walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.
Social expectation drowns us all inside. What you have should be what I want, 'cause what I have just ain't alright. The clothes I wear, the way I comb my hair, how I live, oh I don't care. This is who I am, this is me. Nothing, everything, can't you see who I am? Just let me be, 'cause like it or not, but God loves me, who I am. He said, she said, they all